Cesar graduated from SCAD. He learned his MA in accessory design in 2016. Has a B.F.A in industrial design in 2012. An award-winning footwear designer, and now works with top brands worldwide. Today, he's going to talk to us about how SCAD prepared him to rise quickly in the footwear industry. He lives in Los Angeles, and he is the head pattern maker and sample maker at the YEEZY brand. So I'm sure we'll hear about that too. So with that said, I want to kind of turn it over to Cesar, let him tell a little bit about himself and what he wants to share with us there, and then we'll jump into kind of more of the structured questions.
Oh, thank you, Michael. No, thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to be here. I'm always happy to share my experience with the SCAD community. As Michael said, I had a bachelor's from SCAD in industrial design, and then after working for a couple of years in the industry, I decided to specialize. I decided to pursue my graduate studies at SCAD. But prior to that, like during high school, I was sure and confident that design was something I wanted to do. So I think the determination to be in this field was set from early on. And I think throughout my upbringing, I think always being involved with the arts and being a hands-on person, it definitely helped to nurture me to be the creative I was at SCAD, and now SCAD nurturing me to be the professional I am today.
Awesome. So thanks for sharing that with us. So I want to go ahead and get into the first question. And for anyone who didn't hear or was jumping in on the back end there as we transfer to this Zoom room, get some questions ready. Write down one or two questions. And when we get to the Q&A, I'll call on some people to ask your questions live, like directly to Cesar in the Zoom call here. So the first question, of all the kinds of shoes that you have worked on and designed, I'm sure you've done a little bit of everything, right? Dress shoes and maybe casual and all of that. What is your favorite type of shoe to design, and why?
I really enjoy working on props for special events, and that entails music videos, shows, just because there is like a very spontaneous aspect to it, where you have to work with what you have, with the time that you have, and the resources that are available to you at that time. So I like that rush of working on one-off shoes.
You have to be quiet doing the, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
No, that's okay. So maybe it's hard to pinpoint a specific design, but I would say I'm more of a fan of the process and how things happen. So I think making props for music videos, or like to name one specifically, the slides and the shoes for the I Love It music video.
Oh yeah.
That was my first experience.
Whoa.
And it was my first also encounter with Kanye's stylist, working with her. That was quite an experience because she's the only person that has worked with him the longest, for like 15 years.
Wow.
So yeah, it was just, everything was like a first time for me. So that was very special.
And I mean, that first time doing something like that, of that level and that magnitude, right, on that stage, so to speak. Talk a little bit about that, because that's really like a surreal feeling, when you're faced with that, right? But you have to think, you have to collect yourself, right? You have to pull your design, put your design hat on and execute at that level. So what was that experience like? How did you handle that?
That's right. Yeah, a lot of elements reminded me of SCAD. Like having a homework due next class, a homework that was assigned on Tuesday and then it's due Thursday. So it was a similar scenario where it was a tight deadline. Things didn't go as planned in terms of the feedback I was expecting, and I had to start from zero the day before of the music video. So similar scenarios I run into SCAD where like I would be working on a project, things didn't work out the way I planned. You have to like problem solve right on the spot. So a lot of things like make me think of a SCAD, which is great because that's a sign that SCAD prepared me for the real world, for real scenarios. And yeah, it was for real scenarios. But yeah, in general, it was an experience that I felt confident at the end of the day. Now looking back, I felt confident, and you have the skills and you are where you are for a reason. So I think leaning towards fear is not, or into fear or into doubt, you shouldn't do that. Just be confident that you have the skills. Also, something that was very helpful is that I asked for help because it was a lot of work to meet during that deadline, which at CAD, they encourage collaboration. They encourage, working with your classmates, asking for feedback with professors or anyone, just in general, laying that foundation of collaboration. That was something that I used from SCAD into this scenario. That was very helpful.
On the heel,
Okay.
on the heels of that question, when you get into pattern making, right? So designing is one thing, figuring out what you're going to do conceptually, and then it comes to putting it into tangible form, right? How are we going to make this? How are we going to figure it out? So as far as pattern making, what is your favorite style to make, or category of dress or shoe to make and design, as far as pattern making and construction is involved?
I think I have a special place for the choker boot.
Okay.
The choker boot was a pattern that I learned at SCAD in my master's program, and it was a style that I really liked. And there was an emphasis a lot in specializing or like dominating something very well. So I decided to like that the choker boot was that design that I really enjoy making. And I think I enjoy the stitch down construction as well. So it was that combination of elements that I really liked. So the choker boot was one of those styles and patterns and constructions that I nailed down pretty well, just because I did it several times, which was important. I think doing things long enough, it's important. For you to help you master just anything that you set your mind to.
What would be the biggest inspiration to you as a designer in your work, period?
In my work, it's anything around us, any objects around us, in terms of finding inspiration in uncommon places. Especially here at work, I have been exposed to looking into inspirations and things that I would have never thought of. Like I think a quick example I could mention is, like, for example, tags for clothing. We were looking at band-aids because band-aids have like this interesting texture, these interesting colors, these interesting materials, and then that just being the trigger for a clothing tag. I would have never thought of that. So I think it has opened my eyes just to find inspiration in anything that you see, take pictures of, take videos of, because that can help you trigger later on ideas for projects that you're working on. And yeah, just have like a bank of inspiration. I mean, that's why
Sure.
people have Pinterest boards, or you have your stack of inspiration. So it's important, yeah, to have a bank of ideas.
Okay. And let's say when you were at SCAD and you're going through the program, obviously you're focused on your projects, you're focused on the things that you have at hand that you're working on. Did you ever envision yourself to be where you are now? Maybe you thought you might be in a different product category. So is this where you wanted to be and where you thought you might be?
I did not. I did not. Working for an artist was a thing. I did not. These people, artists, musicians. These people are they're companies themselves. So that to me opened the eyes of how people of influence, musicians, or people like Kanye West, have shifted the status quo of what working in a creative field is like. Because I never thought, I only thought my only choices were working at companies like Ralph Lauren, like all the companies that Scott has relationships with. That's who I saw myself working for. So like Ralph Lauren and Abercrombie,
Sure.
Abercrombie, all those companies. That's where I saw myself. But
Mm-hmm.
then the Kanye West came into the picture. So, and now I think, thinking back, and also now looking at my circle of friends right now, most of them work for artists, and these people are like, they have ideas, they need people to execute, and now companies want to work with these artists. So these artists, it is in their best interest to have their tight circle of executors and visionaries,
Mm-hmm.
because that will elevate them. So yeah, it just it came out of nowhere. I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting to be where I am today, but yeah, that's a very interesting point in time in design.
Yeah, we see it kind of all over the industry and crossing between different, platforms where, you know, maybe a heritage brand is reaching out to an influencer like that who may not have fashion influence, but they have so much influence in the culture and style, and they want to infuse that into their brand. So I know that's exactly, that's the time that we're in. So very interesting to be at that point. So how do you feel that SCAD directly prepared you for the job that you're in? Maybe thinking about skill sets and preparation and the rigor of the program and anything. How do you feel like SCAD prepared you?
Can I
Definitely.
add something?
Yeah.
Hi, Cesar. I'm
Hi,
Professor Sam Norgard.
I remember you.
And yes, and hi. And I'm wondering if I could add to Mr. Mack's comment and ask you to reflect a little bit on your foundation studies. I remember so fondly you from Design 1 over in Boundary, and us talking about your future, and here you are. You're in your future. So thanks.
Small world. Yeah, crazy world. Foundations were, well, as the word says, it was a very good foundation.
Yeah.
for anything that you do in your job, because it comes down, if you dissect the process, it comes down to those foundations. And I keep running into using the skills I learned throughout my first courses at SCAD. And if you start looking at artists right now, when I go to Basel, and all these gallery shows, you start seeing, oh, this was repetition and emphasis. This was, this is symmetrical design, asymmetrical design. So by you dissecting and identifying the arts and the design elements, it just helps you build from the ground up, truly new products, new experiences. So yeah, foundations are definitely has been one of the most impactful skills and courses that SCAD has taught me. Also, I love the purpose that SCAD has for the foundations is so that when we work with other SCAD students, alumni in the industry, we speak the same language, and which that's great. And also in the foundations, it's really the only place where you get to meet people from other fields, because once you go into your majors, it's like you're only with industrial designers, only with photography, sculpture, and all of that. So yeah, foundations is just a great place where like you mix and I think it yields for a lot of like true creativity and true artistic expression of yourself. But no, SCAD prepared me very well in foundations, and then in the craft of designing an industrial design program. I was very well prepared in the thought process and the approach, but the masters gave me that next level of preparation in terms of specializing in how to do something from start to end, which is something that the industry lacks of. Because in the industry, you find a lot of, especially in corporate environments, you find people that do an aspect of it, but then they are disconnected from the next step or from the end product. While if you look at the whole spectrum and you are a master in each stage, there is more room for you controlling the vision and being true to the artistic aspect that you saw at the beginning, which that's one of the reasons why Kanye likes me. It's because I understand the artistic aspect of the vision, but I have enough technical knowledge to execute at a level, that he can touch, wear, and make a decision.
Okay, great, thank you. Now, obviously, this is a very different time that we're all going in, as opposed to what it was even 6 months ago. But let's talk about then, and just let us know a little bit about how travel played a part in your work, or maybe still does in your day-to-day work.
I still travel, but no, travel makes me evaluate what I need to get my job done. So I start evaluating my process, my tools, my space. And this is something we constantly do at work. I have found out we move offices once a year. So we're constantly like reassessing and forcing ourselves to think differently and to look at, we start looking at different things because we're in different places. So I think that's the advantage of traveling, is that you are forced to get out of what you know, and then you have to figure it out again, like start from zero again. I mean, it might seem like a process that like could make you tired, but I think once you get the hang of it, I think it makes sense for the creative mind. Traveling, that's why a lot of writers used to write from different hotel rooms, because once you position yourself in different places, you see different things, and you stop you stop creating the same.
Hmm. Yeah, that's also something that I think was really awesome. That is awesome about SCAD as well is, you know, having the different campuses and the different places to provide those different vantage points. So, you know, if you're in Savannah and then would take some classes in Atlanta, even though it's a few hours away, you're going to have totally different inputs. And, you know, whereas if anyone had ever been to visit the Hong Kong campus or the one in Lacoste, also totally different, you know, inputs for the designer. So I agree with you. I think it's so important for designers or creatives to travel and take in those inputs to put into their work.
I agree. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So this is one that I get a lot in my classes because, you know, students, they haven't really had this experience yet. So tell us, what was it like? I'm assuming that you've probably been to the different kind of development facilities. So what was it like your first time going to any kind of factory or manufacturing for the footwear?
I have made a few trips to manufacturing facilities in the US, just because our emphasis and goal is to manufacture in the US. Also, one of the reasons why I haven't really like made trips overseas, or like that's a trip that I make constantly, is because we prototype in-house.
Yeah.
So I don't have a reason to leave
Sure. But yeah, so even in the States, like when you're going and seeing some manufacturing in the States, like seeing that design that you worked on, kind of going through the process, and what is that like for you?
It's a eye-opening experience because you are so connected to your idea and to your product that you think people will understand your vision and what you're trying to achieve. So you have to make things simple enough for everyone to understand. I could speak more in the apparel side of things, just because I have had more interactions with in the apparel field.
Sure.
So it's a well, definitely understanding, you know, your technical knowledge is definitely a plus when it comes to communicating ideas and you telling the person what you want to achieve and how you might achieve it. But you also have to let the people, you know, the people that are working in these places have their input, and that's when you have to practice letting go of your baby and letting them hopefully take care of it.
Yeah. And that right on that point that you're saying is something else that I kind of talk and emphasize in the classes, which I'm sure your professors did as well, is, you know, that patterning knowledge and understanding is so valuable when you get into those situations where you might be at a manufacturer or you're in a meeting and you need to speak intelligently and about a product, about construction, how to fix it, how to correct this. So all of those things that SCAD provides us, you know, in that patterning and those technical things, I'm sure you use on a daily basis. So yeah, just kind of recalling some of those experiences for myself too. And it's definitely a big deal. Let me jump to this one. And I think we're kind of moving a little bit closer to the Q&A. So everyone just kind of get those questions ready. I'll start kind of calling on people to ask your questions to Cesar. So you talked a little bit about this in the beginning, but what is it like working, you know, working for and around and in the presence of, you know, a big figure like Kanye West?
There is some pressure to it.
Yeah.
Just because he's an eccentric character. but he also is a creative and an artist, and he understands you. So that brings me some like confidence, like okay, like he understands where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
um it's 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 not, it's not a bad thing. It's not like, oh, you feel pressure, like you're working, you know, fueled by fear. No, no, no. It's like, uh, again, you're well prepared. You have everything you need: tools, space, people, and yeah, you just, you're prepared for this, you know. You're prepared for this, so all you gotta do is just do it.
Yeah, that's
um,
it.
yeah,
That's an easy way to put it. You're already
yeah,
prepared. You just do it.
yeah. And I think also, I mean, being overly prepared, I think is not a bad thing, especially with him, because he likes to see options. So I think that's something I've learned too, is just to think ahead
Hmm.
of scenarios that might happen, because they will probably happen.
Hmm.
So, you know, bring extra glue, bring, when I come to say, I think working on sets and like music videos and all of these special projects, because you're traveling and you might not have everything you need at that site, you have to bring it because you're responsible. So you have to bring anything you might need. uh, so in that sense, I think I've, you know, I've learned. And yeah, you think of everything, every possible scenario that might happen, and you bring everything you might need.
Okay.
Just be prepared for the occasion, you know.
Okay. And just a few more questions here. Of everything that you do, you know, what's the favorite part of your job? Favorite part of your work?
Favorite part of my job is seeing the work uh, coming to light in terms of, I was part of the Sunday service initiative from the early days,
Mm-hmm.
and me seeing my work in terms of contributing to wardrobe styling, you know, under the guidance of Kanye's stylist. Yeah, seeing that work to fruition every weekend,
Mm-hmm.
that was special. So I think it's like just seeing visions come to life. That's, I think that's the most rewarding thing I
Awesome.
can do for. Yeah.
Awesome. And let's see. You talked about you know, a little bit. You said, hey, sometimes there's a little bit of pressure. You know, what about those deadlines? You spoke about deadlines too, and with students, you know, we always, I say we because I graduated from SCAD too, same as Cesar, and you know, we always procrastinate. But when you when you get to this level, right, where you're working, you're a professional, you're being paid to do a job and execute. Can you talk to them a little bit about the importance of those deadlines?
Uh, yeah. So even though no procrastinating, I sometimes have in the back of my mind the slight chance that I might not make it, but I still try the hardest at the beginning, because in the process of you trying, you will make it work. You will find a way. You will figure it out, or you will ask for help, because sometimes that's what it comes down to. Like, hey, I might not be able to make it by myself, but if I bring someone on board, I have higher chances to make it.
Hmm.
Um, but no, yeah, procrastinating is no good, especially at work. And I don't want to know what missing. Well, for me, my deadlines are like music videos and like, you know, any like photo shoots or like all of that. Those are my deadlines. Uh, so I mean, luckily I have 24 hours a day, and you know, I have access to my space 24/7. So
Hmm.
that's helpful, because at a company you'll never be able to work 24/7 hours, 24 hours. So yeah, no, that's definitely trying your hardest no matter what. Also delivering, showing up with something, even though you might not feel 100% confident of what you're showing, but I would rather show something that is at 90% than showing up with nothing. And that's something that I at SCAD that I learned working with Marcel Marchand, one of the former professors of SCAD. That's something I learned with him, is that no matter what, you have to show up, and you have to show up with something, because at least you made the effort, like, hey, this is what I came up with the time I had, with the resources I had. And maybe that's a sign, like, hey, let's look at why you are not delivering 100%. Well, I'm not delivering because of these reasons. Okay, I'll fix that. And then next time, no problem. There will be no problem.
Sure.
But no, I've always delivered, and I always say yes. I've never said no to him, and we'll always find a way.
Awesome. All right, so let's open it up. We gave you some time while we're chatting to hear some different things and get some different thought processes going. So we have about 10 minutes for Q&A. So we'll just kind of go through. I'll pick a few people, yeah. So we'll start with that. So I see Amber, you were one of the first people to jump in here. Do you have a question that you'd like to ask?
I mean, everything was really covered. That was really inspirational as well. I'll just leave it to anybody else.
Okay, cool. All right, Mary.
Hi, Cesar.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I was wondering, are you going to go to Wyoming?
Yes, of course.
So you'll be living in Wyoming. When will that happen?
I don't know yet.
Well, that was my only question.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so let's go. Let me see on this page here. Christina Ryland, do you have a question?
I don't know if you can see me finally. Here I am.
Oh, I can see you. Sure.
Hi, how are you? I don't know you, Cesar, but it's been really nice to hear you talk, and I am very pleased to hear what you bring up in terms of procrastination, caring about detail, and all the sides of work that's maybe not the creative side of your work. Because to actually bring an idea to fruition, you have to care about being able to communicate with the people in the factory and all these things. Do you enjoy that process as well?
I do.
Side?
Yeah, I do. Although I would rather spend my energy and time in creating just exploring new designs, new aesthetics, new experiences, because that's actually my job. Yeah. Just working on new concepts. Yeah. I don't work on anything that has been already developed or like things that are in line.
No, I just meant so when you actually bring those ideas and those creations to fruition.
Mm-hmm. Oh, when?
When you do that.
Yes.
Do you find that side of your, to actually be able to communicate that side of your work to the people that are going to execute it, to the people that are going to make it happen for you? Are you? Do you understand my question?
Yeah. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
That's a challenging step of the process.
Yeah.
Which I try to enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you spend most of the time trying to convey your ideas, but then they're coming back with excuses why it cannot be done.
You mean in terms of perhaps technical reasons why it can't be done?
Yeah, either technical or just administrative. Sometimes it's administrative.
Oh, okay.
So also something that helps me is that I have been in both sides of the spectrum, because I used to be a footwear developer for Adidas. So I know I have insight. I have insight into that. But now that I'm on the other side, I know what you're telling me now.
But you benefit from the fact that you can draw on that knowledge, that technical.
Yeah. Well, technical, and also like just how things operate at Adidas.
Yeah. Well, that's sort of
that helps.
Very cool. Very cool. Very cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, we had a student question, so I'm going to say this the best that I can. Aishwarya, you asked me if you had a question. Can you go ahead with yours, please?
Hi. I just wanted to ask, where do you draw inspiration from, and what do you do when you feel you're out of ideas, or how do you come up with new ideas?
I talk to my coworkers. I found out conversations is a good way to trigger and gain new perspectives. And so I talk to my coworkers, which most of them are in apparel. So they just provide me with a different perspective, or they give me constructive criticism. Also, I ask for opinion to a stylist, because they know what looks good, and they have an affinity for shape and proportions, and color. So I ask for opinions to them.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. We have Joshua Perry, yours full of questions, sir. Do you have a question for Cesar?
Sure. I was just wondering if you could provide maybe like a little insight to the process from like the beginning of you being told what an idea is to the end of where you're, having to put a product out for a photo shoot or music video. Like, how many sketches are you guys having to do? How many people like work on a team and all that, like kind of process? Like, are you sending out blueprints to a factory, or is things handmade sometimes?
So if it's something for like so I'm in charge of the first round of samples from design to the first prototyping stage. That's up to me. There's not much, all it takes is like a thumbnail, like a line drawing. That's all I need, or like a quick Photoshop. But it doesn't take much. I've gotten from him like just like line thumbnails. And I once did a Photoshop of what that might have looked like, and it was a realistic Photoshop. So he calls me and he says, "Hey, did you make this?" And I said, "No, it's a Photoshop." And he was like, "Oh, could we please skip that and just make it?" And I was like, "Okay." So it's a very straightforward process in terms of like, you have a thumbnail. That's all I need. I will make it. That's it. So it's a very like nothing. It's not very conventional, or like we don't go through rounds of reviews, designs. No, it's very like idea, make it. Idea, make it. Idea, make it.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. And Jordan, what's your question?
So my question is, so when you're on the job, what do you think is the biggest thing you had to learn when adjusting to the workplace that you are in?
In terms, could you be more specific in terms of?
Like during the process of something that you had to adjust to, like a sort of type of maybe the process of things that are done, or like the system of doing things that you had to maybe adjust to because you weren't used to it before, like an example.
I mean, I guess I could come back to the props for the I Love It music video, just because that was it was a first time experience, but also at the same time, it reminded me of SCAD, of like, the professor, but at that time, the stylist gave me feedback for something that I had to start over again the day before the deadline. So I think it's that, like, even though they might seem different, but they're also very alike at the same time.
Mhm.
It was just that it's just that dynamic of like, oh wow, I didn't know this could also happen at work, kind of thing, of like starting all over again. I thought it was only happening in school. No, it happens in the workplace, which SCAD prepares you very well for that. So yeah, me having to do things all over again because the first slides that I made were too big. So yeah, doing that all over again was like oh, I didn't expect it. Yeah, it was also like 6:30 a.m. that we had the review. So
Wow.
Me having to work all day to make up for the work that I had to do again. But yeah, I mean, I think that's been one of the most abrupt experiences I've had.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I think we have time for just a few more here. Ava, you said you had a question?
Yes, that is correct.
All right.
First of all, I have my YEEZY Marshes with me.
Awesome, beautiful.
Yeah, I like wearing them. They're so comfy. So my question is there anyone you look up to in terms of like your designs and like making things and creating things?
Yeah, I enjoy a lot the Alexander McQueen documentary. That was pretty good. I think a lot of the things on the documentary relate to how we operate at YEEZY. There are a lot of like things here and there that are very similar process-wise. So yeah, Alexander McQueen is very, very good, but also studying people like Ralph Simmons and Issey Miyake, studying their process and where they came from. That's very important. They are well formally trained as tailors. So I think the importance of learning the traditional ways of doing things helps you create the next way of thinking, next way of doing things, but you cannot achieve that until you learn the traditional way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think just looking at icons of fashion, it's like best business practices. If you want to become a millionaire, you study 20 people that have become millionaires. So same way, you study 20 fashion icons and then you become a fashion icon.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
All right, awesome. And then Benjamin, you had a question. Oh, you're mute.
So,
there you go.
What do you think about like other designers, specifically higher end? And then do you take inspo from them? And how do you appeal to the consumer eye? And having those competitors, watching them from the sidelines, do you take it as a pro or a con?
We're very attentive to what happens in the fashion field, and we look at what has been done before, especially like original, like let's say first collection. We believe that, or at least I believe that your first iteration of your idea, that's the most honest and authentic and true to your vision. So we're always looking at like, oh, what was the first prototype? What was the first collection? Because there is like an innocence and like a still creative audacity, creative audacity and confidence that you try to achieve in your first attempt. So we look at that. We look at like first editions, the first of things. We look at that, and I mean, and oh, we emphasize on just creating just cool products, cool experiences. I think that's our main goal, and then the rest will follow.
Okay, and then we have one that's typed in here. The question is, what do you do when there are creative differences between you and a coworker or client? Do you stick to your gut feeling, or be open to bringing in the other viewpoints? Like if you feel strongly about something.
If I feel strongly about something, what I would end up doing is, let's say an example, 2 versions of a shoe.
Sure.
I provide what you asked me for, so you get what you asked me for. But then thank God I have the ability to make shoes, so I can provide you with my version, my view, my interpretation of what you're trying to give me. But I work with people. My boss, the people I work with, Steven Smith, he's a creative like me, and he's very open and very flexible in the process of me making his designs. And he's open to suggestions. He's in the process of making it, we change things, which is very it's a rewarding experience. Like that's good qualities of a good boss in a creative field, is him trusting you with his vision and him giving you the freedom to have your input of like, oh, can we put this material? This is what I have available right now. And he's yeah, let's do it. And
okay,
it's as easy as that.
Okay, and I think these are the last 2 here. Nyla, you had a question?
Yes, I do have a question. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. How do you deal with like time management and using your foundation at SCAD? Is there anything that you wish you knew or wish you learned about you like using now?
So is it sorry, just to condense the question, so you're asking about how to manage
time
I guess
management. Yeah.
Time management, and how did SCAD kind of play into that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think about work that I need to do, that I try to work on different projects at the same time, because depending on the steps that I'm doing, like for example, if I'm like letting glue dry or letting paint dry, while that's happening, I can work on something else. Okay. So I think of steps and where I am in the process. So I try to, accommodate different projects in the same timeline. Well, in my process, I accommodate different projects, so I can, use my time wisely. And I mean, at SCAD, having different classes, different projects, those were my first baby steps into time/project management.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, and just to kind of bring it all to a close here, and this is just a big picture question for you, because I'm sure as an artist and designer and creator and maker, you have many different things that you're interested in. But in the world or field of design, what's your overall goal or focus? Like, what would you want to leave as a mark on design? What's your focus?
I would like to, one thing would be just keep doing more of the same. I feel like I'm in a great position in terms of executing visions to life. And I think for me, the next step would be like just growing more in that position in terms of having more capacity to bring more visions to life. Also, within a timely manner. So like that, what could that look like? Maybe a team of people just making shoes, like a team of people just figuring out how to execute something. So yeah, it will be in that realm of bringing ideas to life. Because the only wish I have is that I wish I could make things happen faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only wish I had. So like my next goal would be like, okay, how we could make that happen.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I mean, I think people were sending me questions on the chat, and I think we got the questions in. And I just want to say thank you, Cesar, for taking the time out and talking with us today, giving us some insight about your journey, your time at SCAD, and your day-to-day work, with what you do now. So we just want to thank you so much, and we'll be following along on your journey. Everyone can find Cesar on Instagram. He's active on there, so you can see what's going on with him too. But thank you so much for your time and just speaking with us today. So we will see you, I guess, the next time around, my friend.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.